Alright, there we go. Hold on, let's make sure.
There we go. Now we are ready.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, guys. My name is Jay.
My name is Charlotte.
I'm Jay Baker, and I'm the author of a book we are going to discuss now. I'm going to promote my book. I know it's not very... choose the right word.
Demure. I know that's probably not the right word. But
yeah, but anyway, I'd like to
that.
promote my book, and I'd like to have more viewers. And it's only natural that if I have finished eventually my book after 20 years of research, I think it's worth discussing. At least it might be interesting to some of you.
Yeah, we've actually just finished the audio portion of this, and we kind of, I don't know, what would you say that we covered? Kind of like
we've covered the roots of Christianity.
That's my questions.
The roots of Christianity. I think Christianity is a separate religion, of course, because simply Christians think that they have their own separate religion. And although Paul thinks that it's just a branch of the tree. But my view on Yeshua and his first immediate followers and brothers is that they were Jews. I mean, his disciples were Jews, and they belonged to Judaism, although they were very special.
Yeah, just for that, I know you've kind of talked about this already, but just for the sake of this video, how would you summarize what your book is about?
My book is not about Yeshua, not about Christianity. It's about the Jewish God, Yahweh, who chose to reveal himself several times on several occasions. One of them was very interesting because he was not just in the cloud surrounded with shining glory, his shining glory, but also he revealed himself in a human semblance. It was in the first chapter of Ezekiel, the book of Ezekiel, which doesn't mean that his glory boils down to his human semblance. No, thank you very much. It includes everything, both his shining, etc., etc. And then he appeared all of a sudden, and Jews will disagree with me because they think that all prophecy stopped and Shekinah left the second temple. He appeared in the second temple. Judaism in the first century, now we call it now first century as Christians do, but anyway, we understand what we mean. And he appeared again in the human semblance, not as a human being, but as God. But he appeared not to save the planet, not to save Christians, but to remind Jews about their behavior, to tell them to, and especially to criticize the priests, just like Ezekiel criticized the priests in the first temple period. And then he left them because they wouldn't listen to him. He left them. And then we had all the problems Judaism faced in the following centuries.
Thank you. Sorry, the question I'm going to ask now is actually more related to what we were discussing previously in the audio section, but for the sake of the video, I thought that might be a useful thing to go into. So before we were discussing, how Jesus, let's say, perceived himself while he was alive. And we were kind of getting onto this and you were starting to talk about it, but I wanted to expand on this a bit more. Why should we, considering there were so many, let's say, self-claiming messiahs, okay, whatever is the word I'm going to use here, how and why, well, gosh, I wanted to say how and why should we trust Jesus, but actually I guess the question I want to ask is actually, why was Jesus? Why did people put their faith into him? Is the actual question I think is most appropriate here.
So let me answer. Let me approach it this way.
Sorry.
So because I will have to accommodate myself to answer these questions. So the question is why? Why Jesus? Why him? Why Yeshua? And first of all, the simple answer is because he claimed to be the glory of God according to my reconstructed sayings. And secondly, because I trust him, I find him a trustworthy and sane speaker. I will choose the word speaker. And there is something which is cannot be explained, some mystical feeling, something like intuition or some psychological, subconscious, conscious, whatever you call it, something that makes me believe in his claims. So when people say that, for example, some Jews would say, well, we have so many rabbis and all of them are much better than Jesus, etc., than Yeshua, or Yeshua, they call him Yeshua. But I say, okay, it's up to you. You can believe your own teachers. But I think that Yeshua was literally, because he literally quoted Ezekiel, literally word by word, some of the phrases, but he showed so much knowledge that it exceeded the knowledge of any prophet, of any teacher, and he made a daring and very brave and bold claim that he was literally the one mentioned in the first chapter of Ezekiel. And that's why I'm with him. And by the way, I made this choice. It's psychological. It cannot be explained. We can find evidence. We will never find proof because it's not science. So evidence is in the New Testament, in the Gospel of Matthew, and in the Jewish Hebrew Bible. But there is no proof. So take it or leave it, up to you. But I for one believe that I'm a believer. Although I do not belong to Christianity or Judaism in this.
Yeah, that's kind of like the crux of it. It's also something we talked about in the audio section just before we cut it off, before we started to do this. So the crux of it is the idea kind of faith itself.
Yeah, I'm sorry for not convincing you, because I do know that some believers or some philosophers, let's call them philosophers, they begged God, like, if you exist, please convince us, please show us, please punish us or do something, at least something to convince us. Show us some proof, not evidence, because we have more than enough evidence. We have it in the Bible, in some other books, etc. But please do something to convince us. Show us some proof. But there is no proof.
No, it's interesting. Yeah, it's nothing to do with me or my personal views. I'm just simply not a person who is inclined towards religion, only historically perhaps, whereas you are kind of like both, I suppose, is what I would say.
And I'm sorry, I'll just recall something. And while I think that he was 100% God and not 100% human, we have no even material proof. We cannot say that he came as in the human flesh, because I do not agree with Christians who believe that he was an incarnation of God, because actually it sounded more like this kind of incarnation sounded
like
more like a version of something closer to Hellenism or something like this. But I think that he was God literally. He appeared in his human semblance, but while it is immaterial, well, I mean, yeah, so it's literally spiritual, and we cannot take it, we cannot study it, we cannot do anything with it.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I completely lost track of what I even wanted to ask you after that. Hold on, yeah. So I have a lot to say, actually, to be honest with you. Oh yeah, so that's kind of like the crux of it. Like, we can kind of dissect all of this in quite a logical, kind of scientific way, but when it comes down to it, you have to take a leap of faith, literally.
I'm sorry for interjecting again, but I think that it's very important for our listeners to understand that I'm not trying to persuade them, be they Christians or Jews, that they should accept my theory. No. And I'm not one of those interesting, let's call them this way, people who try to persuade, for example, Jews that Jesus or Yeshua was this kind of person or God, etc. No. I'm simply sharing my views with you, so that's why.
Well, that was kind of talking about what my actual question was going to be. What is the message you want people to take from the book?
It literally, what it says, so that Yeshua claimed and was, according to my theory and according to my reconstruction and according to my inner feeling, which cannot be proven, but just can be presented to you. I can share with you my gospel, so to speak, my good news.
That's nice.
My good news, yeah. I'm not going to evangelize you. I'm not going to, to convince you. But the main thing is that God reveals Himself in Yeshua, and we shouldn't yeah, so, and you can believe whatever you like to believe, but at least try to read my book. I think it'll be a very difficult read, because in order to understand at least something, you should know all languages, you should know Biblical Hebrew, you should know Mishnaic Hebrew, you should know Old Greek, etc., etc. But I do know that I have some listeners and watchers and readers who will understand it. So, for example, Mikhail, and I want to say thank you to Mikhail Shemtov, who read my manuscript and corrected it several times, and I'm happy that I have such wonderful, literally wonderful people who are able to understand, at least understand, and even sometimes to correct my work.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful, actually. Gosh. Yeah, okay. So that was a pleasure to listen to.
Yeah.
Well,
maybe you could play the devil's advocate and ask something which I would not expect you to ask me, but still our listeners are waiting for you to ask me.
Like what?
Like, I don't know, like why not Jesus as sinner, or why not why don't
oh, you want me to be mean about Jesus?
not necessarily. You can or why don't you try to persuade Jews, or why don't you try to evangelize someone or something?
Why aren't you a Christian?
I'm technically a Christian, but it's so difficult to explain Christians.
Yeah.
It's so difficult to explain Christians, just like it's so difficult to explain Jews, that I do not belong to any of these religions, although I feel strongly connected with these two religions. And I think that my book is Jewish, although with a strong influence of, but I do not try to create a mixture of like some Messianic Judaism. I don't like Messianic Jews. I mean, I like all of them, but I don't belong to them. And I don't try to be someone who I'm not. So that's why, if you'd like to know my views, I believe in God, I believe in Jesus as God's relation, human semblance, and that's it.
Any final words for everyone?
Love each other, try not to concentrate on differences, and try not to evangelize anyone. And
Yeah.
Please read my book, please, or at least show to someone who is
which I will
knowledgeable.
actually do this
I'm
weekend.
desperately looking for someone who is knowledgeable, for some scholars, and I even uploaded it on Academia Edu, this site.
Good idea.
I will share the
Very
link
good
on
idea.
YouTube. I will share the link on YouTube. But you know what? The final thing I wanted to say is that while I sent several letters to different scholars, very polite letters, I should say, sharing my book with them, some of them flagged my page, and then I was blocked for several days. And only now I'm unblocked, because maybe some of the Jews or some of the Christians or some others, they flagged me as a spammer. I'm not a spammer, I'm a scholar. Although my work is not a proper scholar work or a scientific work, but it includes a scientific reconstruction which is worth studying, worth discussing, even if you disagree with me.
Good luck. Jesus, okay, good luck with that. I didn't know that. Okay.
Oh my Lord, yeah.
Thank you. We can even continue with this next time when I've had a chance to look at it even some more. But for now, let's say that was a nice
thank you very much.
overview.
Yeah, thank you. Cheers, my dears. Bye.
Bye.